Okay, are you sure you're ready?
You're already recording.
I've stopped showing you the screen when I do that. Hello.
Hello. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Jeff.
And we are doing a podcast in which we're watching Supernatural and then doing a podcast about it. It is one of my favorite shows, so it's a rewatch for me. He's never seen it, so I'm dragging him along on this journey. And there is a catch. We're doing a season for a season of Supernatural for a season of his favorite show, which I've never seen or very little seen, which is...
Oh, you were setting me up. Star Trek. It's Star Trek. We're doing 1-for-1 rewatch reaction.
Yes.
And today... Oh, and the other major awesome part about it is that I was raised by TV and film, which is only half as cool as Stephanie's part, that she works in TV and film, which makes her very cool. And it also makes our conversations about watching TV shows really, really cool.
Yeah, it can be cool.
It is cool.
Depending. But today we watched episode 13, season 1, entitled Route 666. And original air date was January 31st, 2006, written by Brad Buckner and Eugenie Ross Lemming. Eugenie. Directed by Paul Shapiro. The summary is, Dean is contacted by his first love, Cassie.
Oh, first.
I know. I think that this Supernatural Wiki is taking some liberties here because I don't think it was ever said.
They left that part out.
Yeah, I don't think that was ever said. Dean is contacted by his first love, Cassie, played by Magdalene. I should not have said her first name because I have no idea how to say her last name. Echikanuwoka?
Whoa. Oh, yeah, show me. Megalyn Yuchikonwoka?
There you go. That sounds way better than what I said.
Gotta say it with a little confidence.
Yeah. An African-American girl who asks him to come to Missouri to investigate a string of racially motivated murders. Each murder is linked to a mysterious truck that seems to have no driver and leave no tracks. Sam is stunned to see this new side of his brother as Dean struggles to come to grips with the residual feelings he has for Cassie. What an interesting summary.
There was also something about a truck.
Yeah. It's interesting. Okay. Anyway, what are your opening thoughts?
Why is it always about my opening
Because
thoughts?
It's your first time watching it.
Okay, yeah, but you said it's been a while since you've seen it too. I think it's only fair. Fine,
you want me to go first? Is that you have no thoughts?
I mean, I have thoughts. I just don't want to always be holding the microphone.
Okay. Well, this used to be an episode that I really, really liked, because I am a Dean girl, so the first peek into, like, Dean being vulnerable with a girl and, like, kind of not having the upper hand.
Yeah.
Was, like, something I was just, like, I latched onto that. Like, I was so into that. Now I'm like, I still enjoy it, but it's not nearly... It doesn't hold the same weight with me anymore as an adult. And I think that the overall story is a very important one. Like, it was very poignant, especially Cassie's mother. We'll get to that later, but that woman, oh my gosh, so amazing. But this truck just like... like, it was kind of silly. It was silly? This, like, truck that's just like... I don't know. The idea that this truck is just, like, the bad guy, and it's just, like, this truck that's just growling. I don't know. It's just a little bit silly. That
is not where I thought you were going to go with this.
Yeah, the storyline... I loved the storyline. It was very poignant and an important story to tell, like how it ties in with, racism and that was rampant much more in the past than it is today, though it's still very present today. But the vehicle, no pun intended, in which they used to tell the story, I feel like could have been done better than this truck that just growls at people. But the opening sequence, like our teaser, now as a film industry professional watching that,
oh yeah,
dude, those stunt drivers did work. Like, whoa. Like, I was also thinking, did they do this all in one take, or how many cars did they have? How many cars did they reset cars did they have to have? Any other show that I've been on where we've done a car crash, they do their very best to get it in one take, because once the car is destroyed, it's destroyed. You can't break it clean again unless you have more cars, and more cars is a lot more money. I imagine they must have had at least one reset car just in case they didn't get it, because once that car got banged into the back, I mean, I guess you could shoot it in such a way that I'm sorry, I'm getting into the weeds.
Yeah, I want to talk about it.
I'm getting into the weeds,
but I want to get more into the specifics.
But I'm trying to figure out how they accomplished that on a budget, because this is not a huge budget show. But I will say I am fairly confident that the flip of the car in the first scene was done by a driver going up a what do they call it? A pole? There's a special name for it. But basically, they set up this pole at an angle, and the driver has to hit it at the exact right spot in order for it to go up and flip.
Yeah, I want to get into all that, because there's a lot in there that you're going to have to explain.
Really?
Yes. Beyond the first impressions of the episode.
Oh, well, look, you know who you're talking to.
I know.
This is why you should go first.
That's a fair point.
I know myself well enough to know that that's why you should be going.
Well, I noticed first off that we have just passed the halfway point of the season. Just passed between last episode and this one. We just hit the halfway point of the season, which is kind of crazy because it still feels like it feels like we just got started, but it feels like we've also covered a lot. I mean, you realize we've done roughly, I haven't gone through and counted everything, but we're doing roughly an hour an episode. That means we're 12 hours in. We've done 12 hours of recorded, posted content. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, that was really interesting. And we officially swapped discs because we are doing the DVD route. So we have switched over to disc 4, which was kind of a big moment. It's always fun when you have to push the button and make the tray spit out. But anyway, so as the actual episode, I dug a lot of it. It was still a really, really good episode, but the bar on the last few has been set really, really high. This episode gave me a lot of stuff that I wanted. It hit a lot of check boxes. Most notably, we finally got some backstory on Dean.
Yeah.
We finally got some info. Sam was there to push the story along, but this was about Dean. And I loved that. I'm here for it. It checked that box that I had been pissing and moaning about.
I think even in episode 1 or 2, you had said, I can't wait to see Dean in a relationship or develop.
Yeah, it was 2 or 3. It was really early.
Yeah, and I was just sitting over here quietly being like, oh, wait, just wait.
Yeah, so that hit a lot of areas that I have not been feeling satiated, but I'd say it was, as an overall episode, it did really well. It's just coming off of
heavy hitters.
Yeah, some really heavy hitters. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it quite did it for me. It still hit some really, really solid high points, though.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think we've got plenty to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm super pumped about it. So, Dean backstory. All right, so we have, how many moments did we have in this episode where Sam or anybody or everybody wanted us to go deep with Dean, and he pulled his no chick flicks vibe, and so we didn't get to go that way, but his not going there still took us there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the fact that Sam kept asking all these questions and Dean didn't answer a single one of them, but in doing so, he still got all of his answers.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because we started eating dinner. Our dinner came partway through this episode, and so our heads were down, eating, looking at the food, obviously.
Some good Mexican.
Some good Mexican. And for me, it's not as big a deal because I've seen this so many times. I like know what's going on the screen, but there's a few times where I was like, oh my gosh, like, because there was so much nonverbal communication in this episode. So much nonverbal communication. As you just stated, that Dean wouldn't say anything, but obviously he was saying something with his face. And sometimes your head would be down during that. I was like, oh no, we missed it. So it's unfortunate that happened, but yeah, I mean, I think I've always just found it so hilarious, this episode, with like how Sam was like trying to get him to talk about girls and Dean just is like stonewalling him. But then Sam is like, okay, you stonewalling me and giving me that face, I now deduce this because you're my brother and I know you so well.
And then you don't say anything in response to what I've deduced, and therefore I know. Yeah, that was excellent.
It was brilliant.
That was excellent.
It was brilliant.
Yeah, I like that. And they did it through the entire time. I mean, they practically gave us an info dump at the beginning, which 9 times out of 10, an info dump is just a cheap version of writing. But in this case, it was so great. They gave us all this back end of talking about Cassie. And I think a great info dump is one where you still leave with more questions that you came in with. And I think that was great. I think that's what they did.
Well, I think the info dump was great because they did it in, yes, obviously info dump, but the vehicle they used to do it was great because because Sam was like, our big family rule number 1, we do what we do, we shut up about it. I lied to Jessica for a year and a half and you just have a fling and you tell this girl about it. And then Dean says nothing and he goes, Dean! And he just goes, guess so.
Guess so, right, exactly. One more question not answered.
But they used the vehicle of Sam getting upset because of the position that he was put in.
Right.
And Dean was just like throwing the rules out the window. And he's like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, they used Sam's anger at being bothered by it to info dump as opposed to like, well, just tell me about her.
Well, and also his whole non-answering thing.
Yeah.
This whole like, yep, guess so. Guess what you're saying is true. I'm not going to confirm nor deny, but I'm doing a shitty job of covering it up as well.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was really, really fantastic. It was really fantastic, but they still gave us a whole lot of information very quickly. Cinema Sins would be disappointed, but it was excellent. It's what I've been waiting the whole show for so far.
And the fact that Sam just would not ever let it go. Like, they'd be in the middle of something important, and Sam's, like, questioning about his love life. And Dean's like, can we focus here, please? Like...
Yeah, and the whole time Sam's got this shit-eating grin on.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And he's like, yeah, maybe we should ask Cassie about it. And then he looks. And he's glaring.
Looking at it for a reaction. And then Dean's just like, will you blink? Something. Come on.
Yep.
Oh,
it was great. It was
so
such a good play in, when we've got this character that has his worldview, he has his methodology, he has the way that he was raised, that's the way that he lives, and then we get this variable, this Cassie variable of it. Like, he didn't find a girl, he found love. And so Sam's all about it. He wants it, but of course Dean's prior programming will not let him talk about it. I wanted no chick flicks to resurface in this. I wanted to hear that line again.
That's interesting. I don't know if that line ever actually gets said again.
We talked about spoilers.
Come on.
That's an anti-spoiler. It's the same thing.
Whatever. I mean, it's implied many times over, but I don't know if it actually...
It was implied 12 times in this episode.
Yeah, no. But speaking of lines that become iconic, this is, I'm pretty sure, you can correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time that Dean uses what becomes his iconic line, son of a bitch! He says it in the car. When he gets rear-ended, he goes, son of a bitch! And I'm pretty sure that's the first time he says it in the series so far.
I mean, that's a lot of people's iconic lines. I guess I haven't...
You'll see. You'll see.
The way he says it?
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Because, I mean, I say it pretty regularly, too.
No, it becomes a whole Dean thing.
Oh, okay.
It's a whole Dean thing. Trust me. Just look up son of a bitch and Dean and you'll find so many memes.
Is it one of the stickers in the Christmas presents that you don't like?
Hey, stop it.
They're still sitting where they sat after you opened them.
Also, let's talk about my work hours.
No.
There's a lot of things
we
sitting.
Don't have time.
I'm pretty sure I still have Christmas cards also sitting on my dresser.
Maybe. But is it in there?
In organized chaos, guys.
We're focusing on the Dean quote here.
Is that what we're...
Is it in the bag? Yeah, you asked. Actually, no, you didn't. Okay, so as far as I know, whoops. As far as I know, this is the first time we've actually got, that is not, no, don't even. This is what, the first time? I think this is the first time.
Yeah.
That we've heard it, at least in anything that I could be considered iconic, but I don't exactly.
Yeah, I don't think he's said the word son of a bitch so far this season until now. So when he said that in the car, because I knew he was going to say it too, I was just like, oh, it's coming up. And then I was just like, I just knew, like, oh, he's about to say son of a bitch after he gets rear-ended. And then as I was thinking about that, I was like, wait a second. I think this is the first time he's said it the whole season so far, or the whole series so far. And so that's what got me thinking about it. But, yeah.
I think I'm just going to have to earmark this too. We have to come back to it because
Anyway.
It's not hitting me. It didn't seem iconic in the moment.
Yes, because it becomes iconic.
Yeah. So that part I'm looking forward to. Also, Sam said we do what we do and we shut up about it.
Mm-hmm.
That feels like it could be a bit of a mantra. It could be a bit of a recurring theme. Like, this is the first thing that we've heard that's an actual rule. Like, he said it as though it was a quote. This is something we say to each other pretty regularly.
Yeah.
And so it stuck out to me a little bit because there's a lot of things they say that they do, but nothing really had that structured, he was quoting somebody else when he said it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No further input. Moving on. Okay.
Well, I agree with you.
Well, part of this is fun because I know a lot of the people that listen now are Supernatural. They know the show. They love the show. Like, if you and I were talking Friends now, I'd be like, yeah, and then remember 3 more times later in multiple seasons where they did this. But I can't do it here. So part of me, I'm enjoying the ride as it goes because this is the only time I get to do it this way. And then there's a repetition. There's, like, if I'm going back to the first couple episodes, I'll listen to something and be like, oh yeah, that's true. I had no idea at the time, but now 10 episodes later. So some of it is trying to see what is going to become the thing. And so I'm excited about it. I'm enjoying the first timers ride. Okay. This was Baby's first major feature episode. The first time since the pilot she has not been an insert. Because she's always just been in passing.
I wouldn't say that, but I mean, she crashed into the house in
the pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, before Dean thought he was going to die, he said, you better take care of baby. Or he said, you have to take care of the car or something like that. Other than that, she's just sort of been there.
Yeah.
This is the first time we actually seen her featured in something. Now, she got outrun by an old truck, but we don't talk about that.
Not really. Not outrun. Not fully.
He was driving fast enough to rear end her.
But it's also a ghost truck, so it doesn't follow the rules of normal physics. Clearly.
I don't know, man. So either way.
That was a great turn, though.
Baby's first feature.
Shout out to stunt drivers.
Yeah, that's exactly where I wanted to go with it. Let's talk stunt driving. Because I will tell you this, that when we first started getting pretty serious in our relationship, throwback to some of the early episodes, we're together, you sent me one day some videos of just what you were doing on set that day. And I know you've heard this story a few times.
I think they've heard it too.
Have they?
I think you told the story about how it's cool because you got a video and then you saw it in the episode later.
Well, you know what? This is our podcast, so I'm going to tell it again. I think that it was amazing that you sent me these videos of watching stunt drivers do stunts. And also a couple of weeks ago, it might have been last week, you sent another video of stunt actors.
Well, both, actually.
Stunt people doing stunts as well. And there's a particular excitement that I see from getting it, but you also seem to have in experiencing it. And then you played around, you mentioned it already at the beginning of this episode, you got particularly excited about these stunt drivers. So I want to talk about it. I want to talk about like what exactly leads up to, because I know your particular line of work, it's not just stunt drivers show up on the day of and then we're done. I know that there's some prep work that has to be done. Like, what does the planning look like? How do you talk to the city that you're going to be driving in about, we're going to flip some cars on your streets, broken glass everywhere? What does insurance look like? How are these professionally trained drivers and this is what they do with their life? How does the production schedule operate on that day?
I mean,
I'd love to know.
Some of the stuff that you referred to is beyond my scope. I know that as far as like the city and insurance and all of that, that's beyond my scope. But I know that we definitely have to get permits. We definitely have to let the city know what we're doing. And one of the episodes I shot recently, we did a actually very similar car flip that they did in this episode, Route 666.
Yeah, it was different in the car.
Yeah, yes. But it was a very similar flip in which, like, the car, I'm pretty sure this is how they did it. They had a pipe, and the driver just has to hit the pipe just in the right way, and it has it go underneath the car, and it hits it at the right angle so that the car flips as it's going into the air to then tumble and do whatever it's going to do. There are other ways to flip cars. There is a way that you do it with special effects where you do lines of rigging. And sometimes a lot of times there's no driver in it at all. You just rig it up with wire and you pull it in the right way and you make it flip.
So it's a big, huge cable and pulls it down a line.
Cable is a better word. Like, they're going to think wire and they're going to think that's so small. It's not wire. It's cable. That makes much more sense. So there's different ways to flip a car. Sometimes you're relying on, math, essentially. I mean, I guess all of it's math, but like pulling at the correct angle with this cable that creates and with this amount of force will create this, whatever. Or sometimes you're relying on the skill of a driver to just execute, which is math in its own way, but I somehow doubt the driver is doing math calculations as they are doing. So, but the rig that they have to go up, the pipe that they have to go up has to be done at the correct angle and everything as well. So there's a lot of expertise involved. And to answer your question, stunt drivers are absolutely trained to be able to do this stuff. We have stunt doubles on shows that they're there for fighting mostly. That's generally what you have stunt doubles for, running, jumping, falling, fighting. But not all of them can drive. Sometimes, like, if it's literally just, hey, we need you to drive down a street and we don't want the actor to have to do it, sure. Most people can do that. But like stunt driving, like true stunt driving, flipping cars, doing sharp turns, that sort of stuff, those are specialized people. And ones that do the car flip that we saw here and the one that I recently did, those are much more rare to find those people. The one on my show, we flew him in from LA. And he, according to our stunt coordinator, who's in charge of the stunt department, according to our stunt coordinator, he's one of the best in the world to do it. And I know that because during our tech scouts are where the department heads all go to all the different locations you're about to shoot at so that they can know what their department needs are for the episode. And we were on the tech scout and the guy from the city was there and he was trying to ask us, how can you guarantee that you're not going to, there was like pillars kind of on the road. It was a really wide road, but there still were pillars there. And he said, how can you guarantee to me that you're not going to hit those? Like, how can you guarantee that? And the stunt coordinator is like, this guy's the best in the world. It's not going to happen. And he was like, I appreciate that, but like, that's still not a guarantee.
Can't write that in my email to the studio.
No, not to the studio. This is a guy from the city.
Oh, like the city of New York.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we had other stipulations, like we had some like barriers put up around the pillars and stuff like that. But yeah, you have to, the city
because the city's going to be thinking about
infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
How much longer is this road going to have to be shut down if you throw a car into this
and the damage that's done.
Interesting.
And of course, also damage to the road as well.
Yeah.
And that was another question they asked, and I forget the answer to it. It was something like the way that it's falling wouldn't do that. I don't remember exactly what the answer was, but all these are things that are calculated and thought of prior to. And when it's written in the script, obviously, and then it's just a discussion of like, what do we need to see? And so what does that mean of how we execute it?
That's one of those things that it seems like in the script it might say car flips, but then there's 100 questions that has to be, other areas, other departments, other people outside of the shooting all have their own questions for something like this. Well, like the one that you sent me 2 weeks ago, I guess, was multiple people jumping off of a roof.
Yeah.
And you could just write that into the script. 5, 6, 12 people jump off a roof. But then the logistics that have to go into that, if they're jumping off of 6 stories, 5 stories, whatever,
well,
there's all kinds of questions that have to...
The interesting thing about that, I think I mentioned this in the previous episode, that was actually characters jumping through a window. But because of location limitations and the real place we were shooting it was way too high, just a lot of different factors, which I won't bore you with, that ended up being for, 3 seconds of footage, all in all, 3 to 5 seconds of footage of these characters doing this. It ended up being 6 different parts that we had to shoot on 3 different days.
So they were jumping a lot.
Well, no, the big jump only happened once. That was one of the parts. And then we had another part that was shot at the actual location of them about to go out the window. And then we had another part where we had them do a shorter jump inside of our stage with green screen so that we could get the other side of it. There was just a lot of different parts that were involved. And then we also had to get the actual actors landing as well, which was another part. They didn't actually jump. They just were getting out of the garbage heap, was what they were supposedly landed into, as a garbage heap. And so we had to get the real actors getting out of as if they had just landed out of that garbage.
That's a very safe way to go. Just jump into a bag of garbage. It seems to be the place.
Well, we actually used boxes, but...
Oh. Okay, so then fast forward to the day. Of all the things that I find fascinating about what you do, and when we get to have conversations about it, or if you're venting about it, this one I find to be one of the most fascinating. What does the day of look like? You guys know you've already done all the preparations, that this extreme thing, let's keep it on the car, just because that was a theme of this episode. What does that day look like? When we start that day, you're going to be outside. You're not going to be in the studio shooting. There's all kinds of additional logistics, and also because you're outside, you're weather dependent, you're daylight dependent. There's all kinds of additional factors that go on. Is this just a normal day? Or is there a buzz and energy around, hey, we're doing some stunt work today?
Yeah.
We're flipping some cars.
There's some buzz and energy. It is somewhat just another normal day, but there are some factors other than the fact that we still think it's pretty cool to be flipping cars.
You do still think it's cool?
Yeah, I guess it depends.
Okay,
it depends. If you work on a show where that stuff happens all the time, or a movie that happens all the time, you might get a little desensitized to it, maybe. But the shows that I've worked on, that happens every once in a while, basically. Maybe a couple times a season or something. So it's not something that happens so often that you're like, okay, just another day, another car flip.
Right.
But it's more or less a normal day. It's just something else that we got to get done. But there are some different things, the car flip we did recently, our special effects and stunt people were rigging it for a long time while we were shooting other stuff. We were doing our own car chase in another area close by, but just other streets that we didn't do the car flip on.
Yeah.
So they were rigging for a couple hours or so, making sure it all was correct and the pipe was in the right angle and everything was good. And then we also have to have an ambulance there, but the ambulance has to be out of eye shot of the stunt person doing it, because it can mess with their head. And
you're thinking more psychologically. I thought you didn't want them to be in the shot. But no, that you don't want the stunt person to see that there's an ambulance there just in case they screw it up, or in case something goes wrong and they end up injured.
Yeah, I mean, it can psych you out to see the ambulance.
Oh, wow.
And so anytime the day that they did the jump off the roof, we had an ambulance there, but it was out of sight. Just because you don't want to psych anybody out. I can totally understand that. The car flip, I think, was much more dangerous than the jump that the actors did. The car flip, depending on what the stunts are, if they do anything that's especially dangerous or especially skillful, it's called stunt adjustments. It gets added on to whatever their daily rate is. And I think the car flip guy got $15,000 on top of what he was just getting paid anyway.
Oh, on top of?
Yes.
Girl, you need to tell him to call me next time.
15,000 is a lot, though. It's usually somewhere in the low hundreds, 500 and lower for things. But yes, 15,000 is a lot. And I think the jump off the roof was $7,000, I think. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense.
I'd jump off a roof for $7,000.
I mean, when a car goes up like that and it flips and it rolls, even if you do it right, there's so many things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
You can still get injured. Even if you've done it completely right, you can still get injured.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, whack your head just the wrong way, you know? I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen.
Okay, so then wind it into Route 666. We've seen a couple of car flips on this one. We've watched plenty of shows. What was it about this one that got you psyched? Because, I mean, you did get affected. Like, you were impressed by this one. So what was the deal?
Well, I mean, I think that whole car chase where he's rear-ending him over and over again, and then the flip, I was also thinking, like, this is 2006, or it's probably actually shot in 2005, to be honest. It's probably shot at the end of 2005. It's 2005. The show doesn't have a lot of money, and so, like, I don't know, it just seemed impressive for the time, for the money, and the fact that I am 90% sure that there was a driver who did that stunt. And I think maybe just having seen a similar driving stunt, like, you think, like, man, like, I would do the jump off of the roof in a heartbeat. I wanted to do that. I was like, yes, I'll pay you. Let's do this.
Yeah.
But the car flip? Hell no. That looks so, like, again, you could do everything right, and it's just one little thing that's out of your control goes wrong, and that, I mean, you're going in a car and you're flipping around. Like, what?
Yeah, you don't want to?
No, thank you.
I would love that. I'm serious. Have them call me next time.
Being the driver or being a passenger? Because I'd rather be a passenger with a professional doing it.
Well, since the driver gets to pick the music, then I'd rather be the driver.
Okay.
I got that one worked in. I've been practicing.
Anyway.
I
mean, I just thought it was really cool. And knowing that somebody has dedicated a lot of their life to learning how to do that in a way that is not going to get them killed or seriously injured is, it also makes you wonder, like, how did they start? Like, what's the baby version of going up a pipe and flipping a car?
Oh, like these professionals?
Yeah. What's the starter package of that?
Well, I can imagine there's a bunch of beat up Hot Wheels and big wheels that are in garbage dumpsters in certain places.
But again, what's the baby version of flipping over a car? Like a jump, you just start lower, you know?
Oh, yeah. Go-karts?
That seems less safe. Another thing
I mean, there's a whole world of go-karts they put on roll cages. Like, if you professionally race go-karts, then they put roll cages on them because they kind of assume you actually go out onto the car tracks and drive these things around. So the dirt is packed in a certain way to be optimal for cars. You get a go-kart out there that's a lot less heavy. They put those roll cages on there because you're just a lot more likely with a light vehicle like that to roll. So maybe those are the guys that prime in. I don't know. I'm shooting from the hip here. It's a great question.
Yeah. And also another thing that's important in all of the preparatory for this is that you have to have cars that the airbag is disabled, because the airbag will actually do damage
Oh, wow.
to the driver. But airbags hurt.
Yeah.
They hurt. So
I never thought about that. Okay, so how many cars do they typically have? Because you had mentioned, might have been the beginning of this episode, it could have been us talking about it beforehand, about how many cars they had, and then the car actually had 3, maybe 4 different stages. It had driving down undamaged, it had driving down damaged,
slightly damaged,
and then post-flip with that possible 4th stage of after the second hit. I think there was a mildly damaged,
and then there was
and
like
then severely damaged.
And the trunk is
blank, okay, we both saw that. Yeah. So there's 4 different stages of cars here. Is that a logistical issue? Do they try to line these up? Like, okay, we've got the car damaged at this state. Let's do these shots. Let's do it at this state with these shots. Do they have backups for each version? Does it depend on budget?
I don't think they're going to have backups for each version. I think that once the car, if they don't have any backups at all, then once the car has a little bit of bumper damage, you can't go then back in time unless you're not seeing the bumper. Like, you don't have just another car standing by with bumper damage.
Okay, that was my next question.
I mean,
or do they shoot it in a certain way that you can't really see the back of the car?
That's true too. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. There's a lot of ways you can skin a cat.
It again goes back to that.
And a lot of it has to do with budget.
Yeah.
Did they have budget to have multiple cars? I mean, they probably paid that stunt driver. I don't know how much they paid him. I mean, $15,000 on my show, but back in 2005, probably not $15,000. But still,
19 years ago, plus in Vancouver.
Yeah. So
that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. I actually should look up who did that stunt.
I feel like a lot of these times we do need to go back and find the real story, because we'll theorize on it based on your working in the industry and watching TV.
It's hard sometimes to find the real story, though.
Yeah, it is. That's why we got to get those guys on the show.
Yeah, I honestly...
Make your contacts yet?
I mean, I actually know one of the showrunners. I know one of the showrunners, remember? I worked with him.
Well, get on it.
But he was later season, so he wouldn't be able to answer the
people know people. Yeah. 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. Come on, Steph.
Whatever. I wish that I had worked with one of the brothers, because then I could ask them all of these questions. But
hey, I told you to try to get on The Boys, and it's go time there.
Boys shoots in Canada. I'm not eligible to shoot in Canada.
We could still travel.
What?
I would do all the stuff that they are asking for free.
Oh my gosh, ridiculous!
I'll do it. I don't know.
Okay,
man.
moving on.
All
what
right,
else
fine,
you got?
Fine. What do you mean? What else have I got? We watched the show together.
Yeah, but you have bullet points.
You got bullet points in your head. Don't pretend.
I got out my biggest ones.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd say the
2 of the 3 biggest.
And here we go.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I did have one complaint.
Oh boy. Okay, so this is your least favorite thing?
Yeah, this is going to hit my least favorite thing. Okay. Big scary black racist car scaring Cassie. Its whole methodology of scaring Cassie is to rev up its engine outside her house. It starts driving toward, and her defense mechanism of a truck driving toward her house is to close the blinds. And I would have said, okay, that could have just been an initial response, but she did it 5 or 6 times. It seemed like her defense mechanism was to close the blinds on the house. Truck never drove inside, but each time she went up to those like wood faux blind and just shut them. And it would show up, it would magically appear on another side of the house, which we know it's a ghost car, it can do that. But she keeps going up to and shutting the blinds. She's not going upstairs, she's not calling anybody, she's just running from room to room when the headlights are coming in, shutting the blinds. And that was the whole scene. The end of it was her cowering in the hallway, scared, probably because she already had all the blinds shut. It was
calling
still there.
Dean.
Yeah. And that was it. Like, that was the whole scare factor of, okay, Cassie, you're up next.
Well,
the first response to close the blinds when a car is driving toward the house is not natural anyway. And then it becomes like the domino effect of what's going on here. I'm calling that one out.
Well,
that was unnatural.
Here's the thing. She's panicking, and also she knows it's a ghost, and maybe she's thinking, like, I want to hide from it, like, shut the blinds. I don't know, but panic... People don't always think logically when they're panicking. That being said, this is what I said in the beginning, is like this truck that just growls at people. It's not a great monster.
Well, this truck had a little bit of a disadvantage because Stephen King already completely conquered this possessed car mentality. Christine took over the whole thing, and then he did it again with Buick 8, arguable. We can just say that for another episode. But everything else that came after Stephen King doing the possessed car thing became a knockoff of his version of it. That one just, like, that scene just took me out of it. I was like, okay, hold on a second. Who the fuck wrote that in? Of Cassie's terrified. Cassie runs to window. Cassie closes blinds.
That's not how it would have been written.
We're good. No, that's how it was written in my head.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that was my big one.
Okay.
That was my real big thing. I did have another question time, another conversation point, but it could be a rabbit hole. I'm not sure. But what else did you have? You said you had 2 or 3 things.
Well, I had done 2 of my 3 big things. The first was the stunt driving, like, double high five. The second was the whole, like, Dean's not answering, but Sam is getting to him thing. That was really cool. And the third, and which I mentioned briefly earlier, is Mom and her performance. I mean, oh my God.
That. Yeah.
Man,
he did. That. Let's hear it.
He did work.
Okay.
She did work. Like, the way that she was delivering that, like, she never let it all the way out, which is so real. Like, she was holding it back, and her voice was doing that thing of, like, I'm about to cry, or I'm crying, but I'm not allowing myself to cry thing.
Oh, like she was trying to pull it back, but
Yeah.
She couldn't.
Yeah, which is
she couldn't keep it all pulled back.
Yeah, which is so hard to do. It's so hard to do, to keep yourself in that place when it's not real. Like when you're in real life, like it's just happening. It's happening. And there's nothing you can do about it. But when you're an actor, you have to get that up, right? You're not actually in that scenario. You're not actually grieving your husband or whatever. You have to create that feeling in and of yourself. You have to make yourself believe that and get those feelings to come to the surface, and then to be able to control them in that way where like you're always on the brink. You're always on the brink. You never actually go all the way over. Your voice breaks and you start sobbing.
You're not actually on the brink, but you're not off the brink either. But it's that trajectory.
Keep yourself. It's like the precipice, right? She kept herself on the precipice the entire time. It's like balancing on this really difficult ledge. She balanced on that ledge for so long, for minutes. She balanced on that ledge. Man, like the fact that she didn't ever allow herself to go over, and it never felt like a performance. Like it never felt like she was doing, which is exactly what she was doing.
That's the point.
Yeah, like it felt so genuine. It felt, I was blown away. It was so good. It was so good. Like there was not one part of that performance that felt like she was performing.
Mm-hmm.
It was so good. Like, I don't know who that actress is, but hats off to her. Like, man, that was such a good performance. And that's pretty much her entirety of this entire episode was just that. She had one other thing of like, I'm not ready to talk about it. Done.
Yeah, we got a deflection earlier.
We got one line, and then the rest of it was that. And she delivered. Holy crap. And then when Dean was like, why didn't you go to the police? She gave this like, but she's still crying a little bit. Like she still has all of this emotion bubbling at the surface. And even though what he said was kind of not funny, but kind of just like, are you kidding me?
It was ironic. It was preposterously ironic for her.
Yeah, but the fact that like there was kind of like a ha moment about it, but the ha still came out with the same emotion of heartbreak. It's just wow, because that would have been the moment that she could have turned that that welling emotion off and be like, okay, this is an excuse to turn it off. But she did it. She left it on. I just, wow.
That's interesting. It didn't hit me the same way, but that could be a testament to how powerful it was. Like the thing that hit me about the blinds was that it broke the story completely as far as believability. This isn't what somebody would do in this situation. But for you were tuning in to this is exactly what somebody would do in a situation like this, especially if she's been burying it for this long. And she's been choking it down, and she has been smiling through the pain for decades at this point.
43 years.
Mm-hmm. And her husband, who was, they were a mixed race couple.
Yeah.
Up until this point, she's been dealing with this shit the whole time. And this becomes an entire personification of that whole series for her. I didn't catch it. That's really interesting.
I mean, I think when I first watched it, like way back when, I definitely appreciated the performance. But I think now knowing how much has to go into something like that for an actor, because when I watched it the first time, I'm just thinking, oh, like this woman is upset. She's trying not to cry. Understandably why she's upset. But now knowing, like, as an actor, you're creating that. It's not just happening, Like, when you're that upset in real life, you're not creating this emotion bubbling to the surface. It's happening whether you want it to or not.
Right.
She had to create that out of thin air. Nothing happened to her to make that happen. She had to get herself there. And that is, I don't know, I just find that so impressive.
That's one of those things that I maybe we'll do we may be able to do an entire episode on it in the future, is does your experience enhance or handicap your ability to enjoy TV? We've had so many times when we're watching something and you'll catch an element that was logistic. It was impressive because of how much they had to have gone through with programming or whatever. But you also get to see these actors, and you get to see, honestly, the roster of who you've worked with. You do get to see some of the best in the world. So when you get to see them switch into and out of their profession, their portrayal of this, does it help you appreciate the work, or does it make you harder sitting on the couch as a viewer to appreciate it?
No, I think more so it helps me appreciate it. It doesn't really take me out of the story, I don't think. It depends on the moment. Like the stunt car driving stuff, part of it is I've already seen this episode before several times.
True. Yeah, and that's what I'm wondering, like, as we get later, and I'm also really curious, because we've been watching TV together for a while now, and as we dig further into it, I want to see if different scenarios, the closer we get to present day modern human in the U.S., which is where we live, does that put you more into the suspension of disbelief, which is what, why we enjoy television? It's the only way that we enjoy TV. Or if we get further away from normalcy, like whenever we watch Trek and you've got people walking around on a spaceship in the future, is that going to make it easier for you? Or are you going to see more of, okay, that's a set piece, that's this. Is it going to take you out of it more?
It depends.
I'm really curious. And I find whenever we watch it, and I'll tell you the other element, and this will be really fun in later conversations, when you see someone you recognize, I can't imagine it not taking you out. The last episode that we did, there was somebody in the cast of the last episode that you knew. No, sorry, it's the other show. It's your show.
Yeah, Yellow Jackets. Shout out to Yellow Jackets. It's a great show. I mean, if you're into that sort of thing, it's a great show. And one of the actors in it, Warren, he plays Jeff. Ironically, he plays Jeff, one of the husbands.
Sounds like a good man.
I always enjoy seeing him. I'm like, oh, it's Warren.
But, I mean,
Warren
yeah.
Cole.
But my point is, though, and we've had this happen, I'd say 25% or more, when we're watching a show for you for first time. We'll see a new episode come in, somebody will pop out, and be like, oh, there's my friend. Or I worked with them.
Yeah.
And again, the list of people that you have worked with. You experience shows differently than most people in the world. I experience shows with you differently than most people. And I've been watching a lot of TV my whole life. I get a different experience with you. I feel like it's something that we could unpack later in the future. Obviously, we don't have to do it now, but that's a part that I find very, very interesting about watching stuff like this. You get things that are very complicated or logistical, or like, what exactly does the experience look like for Stephanie?
I mean, Yellow Jackets, this is my most recent experience watching somebody that I know. With Warren, I wouldn't say it takes me out of it, but in his performance, I will see remnants of when I worked with him's performance, if that makes sense. Like, I'll be like, oh, like, that totally could have been a line/delivery that Stahl is the character name that he had on the show I worked with him. That's something that character would have delivered similarly. Like,
so nuances of him.
Yeah, nuances of how Warren acts, I guess.
But I would also say that there's a flash impression of you recognizing that person. Because we've watched plenty of shows that have an episodic style, and they'll bring in day players, and you'll recognize them at first. And I'll tell you, as many times as I've watched shows of that nature, I have never had an experience where I see a show come on and be like, there's my friend. There's Jack. There's Jack. It's so good to see you, buddy. And I could rattle off an entire list, and I'm sure that I'm not even close to the full and comprehensive list. But I don't know, it's hard to describe. It's really hard to describe.
You would think that it would take me out of it because I would feel like I'm watching my friend. But the thing is, at the end of the day, if they're doing their job as an actor, then I forget that I know them. Like, there's always this in the back of my mind, like, I know this person as a real person. But just the other day when I was watching Yellow Jackets, I was just like, oh man, Jeff, poor Jeff. I wasn't thinking, oh, my friend Warren is playing Jeff or whatever. Like, I really got into caring about that character. had nothing to do with Warren. It was because of the character. So if they're doing their job, shout out to Warren, who apparently was doing his job, right. I start thinking of them in terms of the character as opposed to Warren, my friend, who's playing this character.
Okay, let me try two little things to try to understand, just to see if I can. I'll say the weaker one is that you have a good friend that you met on a show. He is an actor. I had seen him on TV a little bit, but now us being together and our lives are much more entangled now. We went to see him off Broadway. Mm-hmm. And so I had seen him already on TV, had heard a lot about him as the person, the actor, and then seeing him off Broadway, that I still found that I was sometimes getting pulled into the story and forgetting who this was in real world. Mm-hmm. Second parallel, and tell me if I'm way off here. If you see an actor that plays multiple iconic characters that I'm going to take somebody that wasn't in your world, Robin Williams. You watch Robin Williams play multiple characters. Mm-hmm. You don't see Mrs. Doubtfire inside Jumanji. And they do their job. I like how you said that. They do their job. You lose track of the fact that you've seen them before or that you recognize them from somewhere else. They're selling their current position. Mm-hmm. Is that an accurate comparison?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that, Robin Williams is a great example. You do see similarities in how he plays characters.
Yeah, everything's Robin-ish.
Yes, exactly. And so, that's really what I pick up on when I'm watching my friends is I see this is because you're a lot of times they're bringing a piece of themselves to the table. Right. I think that probably the easiest way to make it genuine and authentic is to bring a part of yourself to it, right? Because if you're being yourself in some way, it's going to be genuine. I'm not an actor though, so don't come for me. But I can imagine. It's the same thing with lying, right? Not that acting is lying, but the easiest way to sell a lie is to have part of it be true. Right. So the easiest way to sell a character, acting as somebody else is for part of it to be true, part of it to resonate with you as a real person. So I think that it makes sense that you see similarities in how they perform across various different characters.
I like that deep dive. That's a fun deep dive. We could spend all day there. I find it incredibly fascinating, but I know for you it's work.
Maybe I could get Hampton to come on the podcast, although he lives so far away. I don't know if we're ever going to be in the same room to be able to do it, but...
Oh, so we are doing names.
Oh, well, I did Warren. Hampton.
Yeah, that's true.
It would be great to get an actor on here to get their perspective.
I think Hampton would do great on here if we could get him on. I know we're potentially going to see him soon, so we'll see. I think it'd be great. We're going to have to get him onto the boys so that way he could comment on working with Jensen Jarrett as well. So we can make some phone calls.
Hampton didn't work with Jensen and Jared.
Not yet. Yeah. See? I think imaginatively.
No. Imaginatively?
Imaginatively?
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Okay.
No, we're recording. Don't pretend. Okay, so that hit. There was one more element that I wanted to bring up, pulling it all the way back into the show that we just watched. Is this, the Trekkies will understand this question. I have seen a couple of times now, especially the last 2 episodes in general. Is this a show that tries to approach social issues?
No, we talked about this already. Not really, I don't think. I think that there's episodes where... this is the episode I was talking about. I said there is an episode in the future in which racism comes up and it's a part of the story, but it isn't necessarily the reason why the story was written.
Okay.
I don't think that they write the episodes to comment on social issues. I think that they sometimes use social issues as a way of telling a story. Mm-hmm.
But they're not necessarily seeking it out or even embracing it. It's just it comes along with the territory.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Supernatural's not really. It's not that. They're not that kind of show. Mm-hmm. This is an extremely important story to be told. I think they did a good job with it, especially for 2005. Yeah. I think that it was actually kind of impressive in some ways that maybe it's actually easier in 2005 to have been so hard hitting with it, because now it's a much more sensitive issue than it was back in 2005.
Yeah, there was a lot more buffer to go headstrong into it without accidentally creating implications.
Yeah.
like
and
you can do now.
Yeah.
It's very narrow lane.
Well, and they were talking about the past, so that helps.
Yeah.
You can really kind of amp it up. You'd be like, yeah, but no, we're talking about 45 years ago. It's not, we're not talking about now.
You weren't risking a lot of appropriation.
Yeah. But the guys on the dock, there was a little bit of current happening there because like the guy was like, oh, there was once a time where this city wasn't so nice to all of its citizens, and kind of gave his friend a look. And I feel like that was indicative of like, and it's still kind of happening today. And the fact that she's like, if these were white men, would you have done something about
that
it?
Might have been one of the most powerful parts of the
life. And I think that was, pretty bold. I think now for 2005.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty bold because I feel like in 2005, we as a country still had blinders on that racism is something that never happens anymore. It's very rare. It's only individuals. It's not a systemic issue. And in 2005,
I think in 2005 we were actively challenging. I think we were in the like the premium fifth gear version of challenging those blinders.
Maybe
we'd become anti. It seems like there was a very open culture of fighting against that. Because in order to do that, you have to go through every single book, every page, and you have to question everything because you are talking about a generational issue.
Yeah. And also like, excuse if what I'm saying is completely incorrect, because you have to remember 2005, I was still a teenager. So it's very possible that I wasn't like fully up on what the world and society was really thinking and talking about at the time. But I don't remember hearing, like, now it's so rampant. Like, it's so, I shouldn't say in your face because that sounds like a negative thing, but it's you can't forget it. Like, we are constantly reminded that we have a huge issue in this country still. And I feel like in 2005, we weren't reminded all the time that we have an issue. I feel like it was kind of like, there's isolated incidents type of a vibe. And so I think that it was, granted they're in the South in this episode, so maybe that's why they felt...
Missouri was not the South.
Missouri
was not the South.
Here we go.
I can give you a lot of really good reasons. Compared to Michigan, I know.
Missouri. Well, I also grew up in a city where at my high school, 17 different languages were spoken as the first language. That's
flexing that again.
No, again?
Yeah.
Did I say that before?
You always rub it in.
What?
It's the one thing I wanted.
No,
I wanted a multicultural high school.
No, you didn't.
I did.
You didn't care.
I did.
Whatever. What is going on right now? But my point is, I was exposed to so many different people and cultures growing up. So, I almost had kind of like the reverse, not culture shock, but like kind of reverse realization of other people have very, very, very limited exposure. And because of that, a bit of xenophobia and inexperience can lead to either questions or assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times it ends up being assumptions, and then that's how,
even possibly by accident.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And that's the difficulty of a lot of this conversation, is that it can be accidental.
Yeah.
Completely unintentional, but still harmful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we all, I still have more to learn. Despite my upbringing, I still have more to learn and have been learning a lot in the last, 10 years or so. I continue to encourage myself to learn more. But it's a lot easier to do that when you're in an environment that encourages it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can't wait for the future of this podcast.
Why?
I'm so excited.
Why?
This issue, we will be coming back to this issue. And it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be really, really wonderful.
Okay. Well, no spoilers, I guess.
No spoilers. Even though you don't care.
I don't care.
We'll see. Okay. Racist truck. Favorite, least favorite. We just renamed this episode to that.
Least favorite.
Because it had nothing to do with Route 66. There, I want to talk about that for once.
God, here we go.
Yes, here we go. Okay. Family is from Oklahoma, and in Oklahoma, Route 66 is one of the just primary cultural elements, such a strongly embedded piece. And then, don't roll your eyes.
I'm not rolling.
You're not. Yeah, you're closing your eyes, pretending to be asleep.
asleep.
Route 66 is obviously the core of the name of this episode, so they named it Route 666. I get that. Flash forward. I did the research on this one too. I didn't even touch the research assistant for verification on it.
Yeah, we haven't heard much from our research assistant / executive producer lately.
Yeah.
So we're flying blind here.
Yeah,
we're flying blind.
So we're just saying whatever we want and emphasizing you don't come here for facts. Except this one is facts. I checked. In the state of Missouri, Route 66 is a huge part of it. It's one of the longest running routes. It was one of the longest running states for that road. So there's this whole thing about Route 66. They could have gone down Route 66, but they didn't. They called the episode Route 666, and I felt like this was an intentional insult. The very end of the episode is babies driving off into the distance toward the horizon. They pan up, and there's a sign. There's a state highway on the side, and it was Route 6.
You know that 666, though, is about it being evil.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
But the reference, the only reason that makes sense, the root part, is because of Route 66.
I don't know, man. Go talk to...
Let me rephrase it. There is a rock song that would have fit in this series really well because of the nature of it, and it's called Route 66. So does that make it more acceptable?
Actually,
the fact that they used Route 6 at the end of the episode felt like a slight.
Honestly, though, I was going to say that the song that they chose for the last, the outro, as it were, I thought was beautiful. It was just kind of this easygoing, like, things are okay, just vibe, which was great because, like, Dean got closure and was just happy. And he's taking a nap. And just, like, they're going off into the sunset. And I thought it was a beautiful song for the ending.
I feel like you just skipped my point entirely.
You said there was a great song, so I went off of that.
No, I said there is a song called Route 66.
Yeah, and you said that it could have been used, and so I went on with the song that was used.
Yeah, the point is the name of this episode was based off of that road, this road that runs through the state that they chose to use, and at the very end of the episode, they put up a sign that said Route 6. They skipped over all of that, and I'm offended. Don't look at me like that.
Okay. I acknowledge your offense.
Whatever. Favorite, least favorite. I don't care.
Okay. Least favorite is...
Favorite. How skinny Cassie was.
Do not body shame her.
I'm not body shaming. I'm jealous.
Let's not comment on people's bodies, okay? Least favorite, I think because it highlights the thing I said earlier is the scene with Cassie being assaulted from afar by this growling truck, because it highlights the thing that I said was an issue with this episode, is that that the monster is a growling.
Like the closing the blinds scene? Okay, yeah. Cool.
So that scene, I think, highlights the most problematic part of the monster of this episode. Favorite... I think the constant teasing, if you want to call it that, with Dean and Sam about Dean's love life was pretty phenomenal. But honorable mention is definitely Mom in that scene. It's great. We haven't talked about the whole Sam telling Dean to drive into the still standing ruins from 45 years ago of a church.
We can sidebar that for 60 seconds, because I didn't agree with you on that one when you called it out. But yeah, you please, go ahead.
Well, I think it was, he said go exactly 7/10 after they'd already been talking for like 15 seconds.
Which, by the way,
they'd already been talking for like 15 seconds, and then we look at the speedometer, which is fine, and then he like does a really cool whip around, which is great.
That was solid. But also 7/10 of a mile, like a tenth, it needs to be exactly a tenth of a mile. That's 500 feet. By the way.
Well, but he has an odometer, not a football field.
Yeah, but if his odometer was at 1701.4, it could have been 4, 5. Like the margin of error keeps it from being exactly 7/10 of a mile by a long
That's
shot.
true. That is true. And
especially with this specificity.
And I think that because they wanted to throw this like after the fact thing in there, they couldn't have Sam say it's the site of the old church. You know, because that would have helped because the ruins are still there. So Dean can be like, oh, look, here's the ruins. Let me stop here.
Dean probably would have felt a whole lot better about that moment if he had just told him. Because there was literally a landmark. He flipped. I'm so glad you brought this up now. He flipped it around. He did this really sweet fishtail and then pulled it back up and stopped at the gateway of the ruins.
Yeah. Unknowingly, that's what he was doing, though.
Well, because that was exactly 7/10 of a mile.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, he knew 7/10 of a mile by talking to him on the phone and actively calculating once he turned left on this road. Then, after this point of taking 30 seconds to describe this is where I'm at, he said, "Okay, from 7/10 from now, this is where you need to be."
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
that was a bullshit moment.
That was a little bit. I mean, I get
could
why
have cleared the whole thing up if he had just said, "There's ruins of a building. That's the old church." Stop there.
but it would have ruined the reveal later.
It would have ruined it for us.
Yeah. So I get why they had to do it the way they did, but still, it was a little bit like. Yeah. I think even when I first was watching, I was like, yeah, but they've already been talking for 15 seconds, and he's just now looking at his odometer, like.
Yep.
But I think I caught that even the first go around. But I did love the reveal and how. What if you were wrong? Well, it's funny because you said it too. He's like, sometime or no, what was the first thing he said? He said, I thought that might or whatever. And you're like, I thought
that might work.
Yeah, and he said,
I figured that would work. Or something.
And he said, and you were like, he thought, and then Dean goes, maybe.
Yeah.
What if you were wrong? Huh. Honestly, that thought never occurred to me. Good. Yeah. And then he hangs up and he smacks his hand and he's like, the thought never crossed my mind. I'm going to kill him. That was I remember loving that. I remember loving that moment so much when I first watched, like way back in the day. I remember loving that moment.
Also, I did like the way that they did the CGI. They had the truck going right through it with this like smoky, like it's broken up from the physical and it's fading right out.
Feels like they've upped the budget.
Well, and then I was going to say they did the cutaway, and then when they went back, they did this like lit up neon blue smoke fading out, and that didn't quite work. They could have skipped out on that part entirely. But it feels like they've definitely gotten more money than the first 2 or 3 episodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it also feels like they're not trying to overdo what they got.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll go practical when they can. Scary as shit kid in the lake. And then other times, whenever they're doing it, it wasn't melting ghost. It was in home during the home episode. They did really, really well with the CGI there because they weren't trying to flex it. They were trying to do the bare minimum to make it come across. So they are doing a much better job regardless of the approach.
Yeah, that was a good moment though. I really liked it.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah.
How the hell am I supposed to burn a truck?
Especially a truck that just came out of the lake.
I know.
They're still.
I will have to note this for you, is for the audience rather, when they were getting rid of Cyrus's body, and they were putting the accelerant on him, and then as soon as the salt came out, I was like, oh, there's the salt. There you go. That's what you said. You're like, there's the salt. There you go. Yeah. I was just like, oh man, you're an expert now. Yeah. You're an expert now.
Professional.
Yeah. So he's coming along here, folks.
I get it.
He's learning. He's becoming an expert on Supernatural. Yep. We know it.
So real quick, I'll do my favorite, least favorite. Although my least favorite, I coined this earlier in the episode. You have taken it from me. Is the blinds episode?
But mine was for a different reason, though. So in that case,
because you
it's for a different reason. It's for a different reason, though.
No, I'll change mine.
You have another thing, so you want to say that.
I do.
Okay.
And I did, and I'll take my 1 point to be subservient. Or servant.
You don't get points for that.
Subservient. Okay, fair enough. This episode had nothing to do with Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yeah.
So that's going to become my least favorite, so you can have my original least favorite.
No.
But favorite, finally got Dean backstory, and we got it in droves. I was hungry, and they gave me an all-you-can-eat buffet plate of Dean backstory. It was great. That was wonderful. I could take a lot more of it. Was probably at the bottom of my last 5 episodes favorites. But that's just because the other 4 were.
It's another 2005 Cavaliers. That's how I described it. It's a 2005 Cavaliers.
Here we go again.
Yeah.
This was a good episode.
And so last disc was the last 4, and they were all great episodes. This disc, I told you, this is the weakest of the 4 because the next 3 are also very, very good.
Yeah, which I'm stoked about that.
Yeah. Speaking of, the next one is Nightmare. What are you thinking?
Oh, I've got to predict this one. Yeah, that's right. Nightmare is going to be a non-corporeal spirit that lives in dreams and can actually kill you in your sleep. Mic drop.
Interesting. You're going to... You know what? I'm just going to leave it there.
Okay, good chat.
But it's a really good episode. I'm looking forward to it.
If you like it, I'm looking forward to it. Then we'll see who else in this next one that you know. We'll keep rapid firing. We're starting to approach the end of the season. We're not quite there yet, but we're starting to get there.
Yeah, but I mean, Nightmare, then after that's The Benders, which is one of my all-times. And then after that is Shadow, which is... You're gonna love Shadow. I think that's gonna be your new favorite of the season.
Cool.
Yeah.
I will take your word for it.
But yeah, so I guess just remember, Driver picks the music.
Shotgun shuts his cake hole.
Yeah.
See, I'm finally getting it.
You really are.
I love it. Mm-hmm. All right, well then I will see you in the next one.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.